The wind howled through the open plains as the sun began to set behind the distant mountains, casting long shadows over the dusty ranch. A solitary figure stood in the middle of it all, his broad shoulders hunched with the weight of years of hard work that had left him with nothing but the empty silence of his sprawling estate. Jack Collins was a rich cowboy in the eyes of everyone else, but to him wealth meant little when there was no one to share it with. She was not the middle-aged cook he had imagined, nor was she the young, eager helper he had hoped for. With her were 2 young children, a boy and a girl, both staring up at him with wide eyes that seemed to ask the same question. This was not what he had expected, not at all. He had imagined a woman who would come to cook for him and leave at the end of the day. But this woman was asking for something more. She was asking for a place to stay, a fresh start, just like him. And despite his initial reservations, he felt an unexpected pull in his chest. The sounds of laughter and the clatter of dishes in the kitchen became a familiar comfort. Clara was an excellent cook, and her meals were not just nourishing, they were made with care and love, and sadness in her eyes, as though she too was beginning to realize that something was changing between them. He had always thought of himself as someone who couldn't be loved. His rough exterior and solitary life had kept people at arm's length, but Clara was different. She had lived through her own hardships, and yet she had found a way to keep her heart open. She had given him a second chance at finding something worth living for. Jack couldn't remember the last time he had truly enjoyed a meal. Clara didn't say anything at first, but then her expression softened. She leaned in closer and kissed him on the cheek, her warmth sending a shockwave through his body. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for giving us a chance." "You know you have to do this," she said. "Why would you leave?" he asked, his voice thick with emotion. "You've made this place feel alive again. I'm not asking you to leave. I'm just trying to say thank you. You have to keep us here. I can go. I can take the kids and find work elsewhere." But sitting at the table with Clara and the twins brought a warmth he hadn't realized was missing from his life. He was used to being alone, but seeing this small family standing there made him wonder if there was something more to life than just existing. "We both needed a fresh start, Jack, but it's not just about surviving, it's about finding a place to call home." He had found love when he least expected it. The lonely, rich cowboy who had spent years in isolation had found a family to call his own and a love that would carry him through the rest of his days. "I think you've already found that home," he said with me. "Who is this man? Why are we here?" Clara explained that she had recently lost her husband to an accident and had been left with nothing. "All right," he said in his gravelly voice. "You can stay for a while, help around the house, but we'll take it day by day." The ranch where she had lived with her late husband had been sold off to pay debts, and now she was struggling to make ends meet. The sound of tiny feet running through the halls echoed in the otherwise quiet house. The world outside seemed far away, and he knew in his heart that no matter what the future held, he had finally found what he had been searching for all along, a place to call home. And for the first time in years, Jack felt something stir inside of him, something he couldn't name but knew was important. Jack began to notice the way Clara moved with grace and purpose around the house, how she seemed to take on every task with determination and skill. Her twins were lively and curious, always asking questions and seeking his attention. At first, Jack had kept his distance, unsure of how to interact with them, but over time, he found himself teaching them small things about the ranch. He showed the boy how to mend fences and how to ride a horse, while the girl eagerly learned how to care for the animals. She had seen the ad for the cook position and decided to take a chance. She had skills in the kitchen and could offer more than just cooking. If Jack needed help with the house, no, she was much more than that. She was a woman who carried a quiet strength in her eyes and a kind smile that spoke of a life full of hardship and resilience. Her name was Clara Williams, and she was a widow. Her deep brown eyes held a sadness that matched his own, and when she introduced herself, her voice carried the weight of someone who had lived through more than anyone should ever have to. His parents had died when he was young, leaving him to inherit the ranch and everything that came with it. He had poured his blood, sweat, and tears into making it prosper. But now, at 42, he had nothing left but the land and the loneliness that gnawed at him each day. Years of solitude had worn him down to the point where he couldn't remember the last time he had laughed or shared a meal with someone. The house was too big, too quiet, and every day felt like an endless loop of work that never changed. He longed for company, someone to fill the empty spaces, but the thought of trying to find a woman who would understand his world seemed hopeless. So he did what anyone in his situation might do. He posted an ad for a cook on the local board, hoping to find someone who could ease the burden of his daily routine and at the very least make his meals less lonely. The next day, when the knock came at his door, he was not expecting the woman standing in front of him. What caught Jack off guard was the fact that Clara wasn't alone. Jack stood there speechless for a moment, taking in the sight of the widow and her twins. After a brief pause, Jack found himself nodding. The moment the words left his mouth, he immediately regretted them, but it was too late. Clara had already smiled gratefully and led her children inside. Days turned into weeks, and Jack soon found himself getting used to the presence of Clara and her children. The house wasn't as quiet anymore, yet there was something deeper happening between them that neither of them had anticipated. There were moments when Jack caught Clara looking at him with a strange mix of gratitude one night as they sat by the fire after dinner. Clara looked up at him and spoke softly. Jack's heart skipped a beat. He had never imagined that Clara would leave, not after everything they had shared the past few weeks. Clara smiled at him, a smile that was gentle and full of understanding. Jack didn't know what came over him then, but before he could stop himself, he took her hand in his and squeezed it gently. Her eyes widened, and for a moment, everything around them seemed to freeze. In that moment, Jack realized something that would change his life forever. As the fire flickered and the night grew darker, Jack and Clara sat together, the twins asleep in their rooms. And for the first time in a long time, Jack felt truly at peace.